Another episode on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. This is our live stream we run every Wednesday evening. I am your host, Zachary Small, and co-founder of Oak and Rock Fatherhood, joined by Anthony Migliorino, co-host and co-founder of Oak and Rock Fatherhood. Today, we are joined by repeat guest, Jimmy G, FOE man, father, leader, swell dude with jacked arms.
Swole.
Jimmy, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hopefully the audio is better this time.
You're sounding great, dude. I'm super pumped because last time when I hit go live, it went a little wild.
Yeah,
so it's good to have you on. Today we're talking about, has the world gone crazy? And what we're going to do is we're going to break this down piece by piece with what we're seeing and how we can combat that. And so people love to focus on the problem. The world's crazy here, 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 and here. Cool. Let's look at all those problems and let's focus on working towards a solution. How can we keep that craziness from entering our home? And Anthony, before we dive deep into that, what's new, brother? How you doing?
Oh, man, I thought you forgot about me. I'm good. I'm doing good, man. No complaints. Fucking crushing life, getting after it, and can do no wrong.
So I saw that some deer ate your garden. I saw the post by the missus. So let's not pretend that we don't have problems in our lives, okay? You're not going to bring it up live. I'll bring it up for you, Mr. Inauthentic over there. We got problems. What are you doing about those deer, man? They're eating your vegetables.
I ran cages and wires and mesh all around my gardens today, so I'm good. Problem solved.
Well, you got
it was disheartening, man.
it was just unfortunate to see that. But again,
completely gone. Like, did they
ate about 50%.
Yeah, okay.
So we forgot to just close it down at night the one time, but it's a lesson learned, right? It's like anything, man. Anything in life, anything that hits you, smacks you in the face, you got to fucking improvise, move past it, and make it better next time. That's the plan.
Now, do you apply that to all of your life? Because we've been smacked around with COVID. We've been smacked around with pandemics. We've been smacked around with elections. We've been smacked around with abuse of authority. We've been smacked around with riots. We've been smacked around with division of the family. We've been smacked around with quarantines. We've been smacked around with an economy that's going tits up. And so let's talk about some of that. Are you taking all that in stride too?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, why would you let it stop you, right? Why would you let the chaos outside, what's going on in the world, stop the beauty and the love that can happen in your home? It doesn't faze me, and I know it doesn't faze you. I know it doesn't faze Jim. All right, these are things we can talk about, and I think it's important to actually talk about what's going on and try to see things for what they are, right? Try to see reality. And, you can't let these things control you. You can't let them make you afraid or fearful to go and live your life and do what you have to do, because there is a lot of crazy shit going on, man. There. And to add to that, right, there's always crazy shit going on. It's nonstop, man. As long as we have sociopathic rulers and mainstream media pumping propaganda, there's always going to be crazy shit. So what you need to do, dial it back in, come to the home, be grateful for the woman you have in your life, the kids you have in your life, and the friends you have in your life. That's what matters.
No, absolutely. And speaking of friends, we got Phil Foster in the chat once again. Shout out to Phil. What's up, brother? You know he's crushing it. World throws 10 bricks his way. He crushes them up, turns into cement, and builds it more on his foundation. So we know where he's at. Check him out, philfosterfitness.com. That's my trainer, my nutritionist, my hormone specialist, and I've got literally his protein shake in my stomach right now. And so I'm living what it is I'm putting out there. It's a big shout out to Phil, but he's right. I did carpet bomb that one. I came across and threw that all your way because I knew how you would respond. I could have listed 50 things and said, how are you handling that? And you would have just took it in stride. And so, Jimmy, you're raising two little girls in this world. How are you keeping the world how are you keeping the darkness of the world from dimming their lights? Because I see those girls shining almost every time I go onto Facebook. It's music, it's art, they're selling things, they're crushing it. Why are your kids so happy when we're literally living during a pandemic of children's health, being in the toilet?
Yeah, well, while Anthony was talking, I was thinking about how it's, your home should kind of be an oasis in a way, right? It's a oh man,
Jimmy, your audio, man, your friggin' mic.
How could that be?
So this is what happened last time, Jimmy.
It's all right.
Say something, man.
It's all right.
All right. It was nice having you.
I'll hop in the chat and then I'll answer the question. I'll provide some feedback.
You might be shadow banned, Jim.
Thanks for the chat. We're gonna send a tech guy your way. We're gonna hire some IT. We'll have an IT department in Oak and Rock. We're gonna send them to get you hooked up, brother.
Roger that. It's great seeing you though.
Take care, brother. All right, back to you. Jimmy doesn't get to answer, so I'm going to bring up mine a little bit. So one of the things that has made one of the things that has made us unique, is that we both sort of popped smoke at a similar time. We moved our families from very condensed populations. We brought ourselves down to the Carolinas. You're in South Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. I was in Rhode Island. You were in New York. Much busier. And we came down here. And one of the things where people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. Why are you doing this?" I look at my kids. I look at my wife. I see the beautiful things we're doing. I see the connection that we have, the peace. I see I'm going to call it a slower pace of living, but I don't mean that in any derogatory manner. Like the people are slow or like things like it's just slowed down. People aren't in a rush. The farmers, they're farming. The people in town, they're running their businesses. They're leading their kids. They're having a good time. That whole Southern charm, that's a thing, and that's what I wanted around my family. And you built the same thing. You went from literally New York, people think the big city, and you were around that, man, the hustle and bustle. I remember talking about your commute, and having to be stuck with those people. And every time you get caught in traffic, going to the airport, whatever. And so you brought yourself down there. And looking back, is there anything you would have done differently, though? Is there anything you think that would you have left earlier, seeing like how it played out now? Or do you think the way things played out are exactly how they should have? And so you're now in the best position you could have been in.
No, I mean, I don't look back with regrets, right? I see things that everything happens for a reason. And, could I have moved sooner, right? But I could have. But I believe that the things in your life, they transpire, they take place when you're ready. I might not have been ready for what I'm doing now, right? To take a step back, to not be under constant pressure of, what am I going to do? What's going to be my career? I needed to stay there, right? I needed to run my business. I needed to do what I had to do at that time. And it all worked out because I didn't jump ship, right? I actually had a plan and I spoke about it. I spoke to my family about it. I spoke to my kids about it. So to me, it was a good test, right? If the world is crazy, if if there's a lot of stupid shit going on, and I can sit down with my family and say, hey, we need to be removed from this, right? We need to go find a better environment that we can thrive in. And they all say, yeah, Dad, I'm with you. And my wife says, yeah, and let's go. To me, that's a great sign of the growth that a man has from within himself, right? And even if you bring it to parenting, what we say to dads all the time, right? If your kid is misbehaving, he screams, he yells, he hits his sister, that is a reflection of you, right? So it's the same thing with positioning yourself to live a more free life. And I think ultimately with me, that's what it came down to, was the freedom, right? When I look at the world, I see that there's a removal of that freedom. It's like a continual slow process of them pulling your freedom away, taking it from you. And most people don't realize it because there's so many distractions. And I would say that one of the biggest things for me, and one of the, I guess, lessons I had to learn was about freedom, but it was also the non-aggression principle, right? That no one has the right to initiate force on another person. And that helped me in parenting, right? That made me realize that I can't force my kids to do anything. But it also made me to see the world and saying, why am I letting other people force me to do what I don't want to do? So if you look at it in that context, right, and if we can agree to that, right, no one has the right to initiate force on another human being. If we could say, yeah, that's reasonable, that's rational, and that's moral, then it completely makes the government illegitimate. So that's where I came from.
My God. I'm going to try to keep this one from going down that path specifically, because we had a great video that we dropped talking to Patrick Smith. And so check that out. It dropped today. It's talking about principled parenting. But Anthony, to bring this back to the world that we're seeing, one of the things I saw, one of the things I noticed with you doing that is that you took yourself out of the system. And so people are saying, the world's crazy. Okay, but it's only if you're playing their game. The world is only crazy if you're trying to be a part of what they're being crazy inside. What if you just left? What if you picked up your ball? Let's be real. What if you chose to not be in a position within your work where you have to do things you don't want to do? What if you were to bring peace to your family and you weren't worried about trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you weren't worried about, the way that you were expected to parent? What if you chose to parent differently? And, we're going to break a few things down here about how you can do that differently. And there are a lot of parents saying they're stressed out because of all the stuff going on in the economy, all the things that are going, like, will I have a job? Can I afford inflation? Okay, these are really good questions. But how can we get you away from confusing that as being the justification for the excess drinking, for the excess yelling, for the increase in just conflict and arguments happening with you and your spouse? How can we compartmentalize those things to where your job is an issue, but that's something that you can deal with here? That has nothing to do with how you and your wife are going to communicate and respect one another and love up one another and keep that attraction going there and the fun going there. And that's definitely not going to bleed down to your kids. We watch these movies where there's heroes. There's Rambo, there's Rocky, there's Superman, there's all these heroes. And it's like we are willing, I can't speak. We are willing to say that we write our own script, that we are the one in charge of our lives. So then why wouldn't you write a script where you're the hero? Why wouldn't you decide to be the one who, when things go nuts, you step up? Because in the movies, that's what happens. The world goes crazy around you. Well, that's what's happening now. They don't sit there and say it's not fair. They don't sit there and allow that to transform them into a mean individual. They don't let it bring them down in the dumps to where they're nihilistic and there's no point to it all and the world's just crazy and we got to give up. They let those negative things happen and they see it and they say, no, not me. I'm going to rise against this. I'm going to stand up. In all of the stories that we have, it's rising from the ashes. It's standing above. It's standing tall. We talk about standing. We talk about getting up and not going down in the dumps. We got this from Tim Dolan, who's listening into the live chat while he's working out. Tim is a man who's got a new baby, a beautiful bride, and they're raising that life with confidence and positivity and light. They're doing that in a world that people are saying, I don't even want to have kids. I don't want to bring children into this world. And here this man is with a 6-month-old little girl. And he's like, I can't wait to watch her grow. I cannot wait to see the lessons I'm going to learn, because he's left the system. And, there is something to be said about that, Anthony. I'm wondering what your input is, on parents who, let's say, not even parents. Let's say the young adults right now. Let's start there and we'll work our way up to the parents and the family unit. The young adults right now who maybe they're dating, maybe they're freshly married, and they're like, should I even have kids? As if this craziness and chaos of the world today is any different than the past. And now, in my opinion, the world's always been insane. We just didn't care. We just didn't know. It just wasn't really in our lap and in our face. Media wasn't as aggressive as they are now. But we'll get to that. But what would you say to those parents who are like, we're in love, we're situated, we're ready to have a family, but is the timing right with the disease and all the stuff and the chaos you see on the news and around the world? How do you answer them?
Typically, I don't like that statement. Right, the world is dark, the world is bad, the world is evil. I'm not going to have kids. I really hate that saying, and I understand where it comes from, but I tell people all the time, man, have babies, right? Build a family. That's it's a big part of life. It's probably one of the most important things in life, right? Is having kids. Why would you deny yourself that purpose, that pleasure, and that joy? Because somebody on the TV is telling you that the world is crazy. To me, that's like the ultimate submission, right? That's the ultimate letting fear control everything about you, everything that you're going to do. And you're going to miss out on a legacy, or you're not going to be able to raise children, parent your kids to become their own independent people and see the lives that they go out and create. And why would you ever be afraid of that? Like, why? I don't understand how people, they categorize that as something that's a negative. And I mean, I do understand. Let me retract that. So there are a lot of people whose homes are crazy. Forget about the world. Their homes are crazy. They're destructive. They're chaotic. They're violent. And it's just not a good environment that everybody wants to be in. So I understand the sentiment. I just really don't like it. And I think that if we can get men to focus more on what's important, and first and foremost, what's important is you, right? It's you taking care of yourself, you being a good man, and you being strong enough and being a man, right? Being masculine. To me, that's the strength of masculinity. It's not how many people you can beat up, how many beers you can drink, if you can drive a motorcycle, shoot a gun. It's, are you strong enough to not have a mental breakdown from a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum? To not hit them, to not spank them, to not manipulate them, to not bribe them, to live with good character, no matter what you're faced with. Right? There's so many. There are a lot of crazy dudes. There's a lot of strong motherfuckers out there who have fought wars, who have worked in factories, building bridges, skyscrapers. The Alaskan king crab fishermen, those dudes are insane. Tough dudes. But for me, let me see how you parent. Let me see how you father in your home. And to me, that'll determine how strong you really are.
Why do you think that metric is always left off? Like when you measure a man, like nobody asks you, hey, bro, how many parenting books have you read? Hey, bro. It's always like, do you lift, bro? Okay, well, do you even not spank, bro? How come, like it's literally never a metric. I've never been asked about how good I've been asked how much money I have. I've been asked how much sex I have. I've been asked how much I can lift. I've been asked a lot of things. I've never once been asked, how do I parent? How do I not spank or anything like that ever? And so why is that? Why do you think that's not a measurement of a man?
No, that's an excellent point, man. I think that there's probably a few reasons. I would say the first is, in order for us to associate that with excellence of a man, a lot of people are going to have to look at their own dads and say, shit, my dad whipped my ass, right? My dad fucking beat me. Was he a good man? How could he be a good man if we're saying the opposite? And I think there's some truth in that, but there's also truth in that we're all here to grow. We're all here to expand. We are all here to learn and continue forward progress. I think it's the people who get trapped in that darkness, right? The people who lie to themselves, the people who say, I'm going to continue parenting in a traditional way, in an authoritarian way. I'm going to harm my kids. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what the science says. I don't care what the studies say. I don't care what my friends say. I'm going to continue to fuck my kid up, damage their brain, and hopefully they might make it through adulthood. And there's a lot of reality that you have to come to terms with, right? There's a lot of truth that you have to start to understand. So I think that would be the main thing, right? Is for us to see that as a concept that we need to adopt as a man, right? What makes a strong masculine man? He doesn't hit his kids. He takes the time to be a good leader. For that to be true and people to get it, we have to see that our dads were fucked up, that our grandfathers were fucking even worse. And maybe those people weren't as strong as we thought they were.
So I'm going to tell you a quick story, man, that you just inspired. And I was actually breaking it down for the guys in FOE. And men will hear that and they'll think that you're soft. They never asked you, are you a strong man for not hitting your kids? They'll say, because you don't hit them, you're a weak man. And again, I do think that is a defense of their childhood. I think that's a defense of like, I was hit and I'm strong. Therefore, hitting makes me strong. Because if you were to accept the hitting actually was my dad not being strong enough to not hit me, that means I am not strong enough to not hit. And all of a sudden, there's a weird back and forth that goes on in that mirror. It's like the infinity mirror, because you look at the dad and what you're doing to your kid and what he did to you, and it's back and forth, back and forth. And what's interesting about that, and to Tim's point, it is not an easy road to walk, because you do have to deal with emotions. You have to deal with patience. You have to understand that you're dealing with somebody who hasn't developed the literal physiological functioning to meet you at your level. So you've got to bring yourself down to theirs, and you don't want to. You want to just be like, click your finger and go do your thing. I get it. I'm busy. Like, I have a lot going on. I want to go and just do my thing. But the argument that hitting your kids is going to make, or not hitting your kids is going to make them weak, hitting them will make them strong. We came from a baseball game maybe 2 hours ago. And my son, he's 12 years old. He plays catcher. It's a tough position. He has been in the heat. We had back-to-back games. It's been hot as hell. They stopped the game at one point to call the head coach over to check his arm because he had baseball stitches in his arm. And the coach was like, hey, are you good? He's like, I'm fine. Just brush him off. Oh, that's a tough kid, right? He's making dives. He's running around, making plays, doing all these great things. Like, he's covered in crap, sweat, beat up. That's a tough kid, right? How is that kid tough if I don't touch him? Are you saying that there are other ways?
He's a phenomenon.
Grit? It's funny how that works, man. Maybe you don't need to hit the kid for them to be strong. Maybe you can teach them to be strong within. And then when they go out in the world and they grind and they push themselves and the world pushes back, they have that, I call it testicular fortitude because he's my son. I would say intestinal fortitude for my daughter. But you have that within just machismo where you're just like, I'm not going to stop because this is hard. I'm going to keep pushing forward. My dad taught me that. My dad showed me that. And so here's a great way to look at it and compare that to what we're talking about tonight. When the world went crazy, when there was chaos, they shut down our baseball field. And the first thing I did is I rallied all the troops and I brought them myself. And the cops came by because they kept calling the cops to me. And I kept talking to the cops. Hey, it's cool. We're just playing here. You're not allowed to be here. Okay. Next day, we're doing it again. I showed them I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the cops. I'm not afraid of whoever's calling this. I'm not afraid of COVID. When the world went nuts and there were vaccinations and fear and isolation and quarantines, I had the greatest time with my family. I showed them the external factors going on do not impact what happens within here. And because it's not happening, or it's not impacting what's happening in my heart, it's not impacting how I'm performing in my home. And so these men who want their kids to be strong, you've got to understand that you have to be strong. You have to compartmentalize this and be able to separate that, yes, this is happening, but that doesn't change how you respond and interact with your family. You don't react to the world. You make the world react to you. You know, and what I mean by that, like, oh, how can you control the world? Here's a great example. Quarantine hit. All these things hit. Your job might have gotten tight. The news is just raging. Turn it off. Keep it out of the home. Don't talk about it. I don't do a lot of political things on Twitter. I only share it. I voted for Trump, and recently I've been calling him one-term Trump, because what do we care what this old man who used to be president is saying? Like, why do you care and identify with these things? There's all cops are bad over here, and there's back the blue over here. And I'm like, how about we just focus on ourselves? You know, I'm not going to join all cops are bad. I'm also not going to blindly love every cop I see. And we had that great discussion with Patrick, and where I realized that's like a controversial thing to say. But in what profession do we blindly respect and just bow down and say you're good on any level? We don't do it for teachers. We don't do it for politicians. We don't do it for janitors. We don't do it for construction work. There's no job. I'll list maybe firefighters. I've never seen somebody have a problem with a firefighter. I have seen, marriage issues like alcoholism run rampant in firefighters, but I've never seen like them think like, oh, firefighters are bad.
The difference between a firefighter and a cop is the firefighters are on standby. When there's a fire, they go and put it out. The cops are always there, man. They're patrolling. So I would say that's the big distinction.
You're probably right. I've always viewed them like frat boys. Like, you just party, hang out with your bros, and like save lives. So they're actually in a really good position. So maybe firefighters. But my point is, I don't care what the world is doing. I don't care what they're saying, and it changes every day. And if you're trying to keep up with that and you're trying to bring that into your home, you're going to be so stressed out that you can't be the best dad you could be. You can't be the best man you could be. You won't be the best husband you could be. And so how do you disconnect that? Look somewhere else. And this is immediately applicable advice. Just stop looking at it. My timeline, if you go on my Twitter timeline, it's dudes writing books, it's dudes getting jacked, it's dudes taking ice baths, dudes raising chickens, chicks selling like things that they sewed and knitted. Like, I have like the most boring timeline. Anthony, you're my timeline. Somebody talking about, fatherhood. Like, that's I don't want to see anything else. That's what I focus on. And so guess what? When I go to my family, I'm talking about, hey, Anthony said this today. Isn't that so funny about fatherhood? Yeah. Like, check out this new workout we're going to do, family. I saw it on that. Or look, we can name our chickens and we're going to make a sign like your daughter did. Like, let's get a sign with all their names on it. Dude, that's
simple things, brother.
And that simplification, exactly it. That simplification of not watching the darkness keeps it from ever coming in. We don't see it or care about it at all. I'm focused on middle school baseball, cheerleading, my wife, and just building what it is I'm looking to build for my mission. How do I have time to get stressed out and let the craziness of the world make me insane? It's impossible.
No, it's a good point. And before I touch on that, I just want to pop up Jimmy says it's easy to measure how much weight someone can lift or how much money someone makes. Not as easy to measure how good of a father you are. And that's absolutely correct. And this is something we talk about a lot. Ask your kids how you're doing, or get feedback from your children, right? You want to talk to your friends and you measure how much weight you can lift, right? You want to go impress Phil, tell him what you lifted. That's cool.
I hit 435, just letting you know, on a deadlift.
Finally.
I know. I got to get it back up.
You'll get there. But no, I mean, that's an important thing, right? To ask your kid how you're doing as a dad. What as a family can you guys do together? What do they enjoy? Right? It doesn't always have to be how am I doing, but what do you guys enjoy? What do we need to do? And I think these are important questions that we're not having enough, right? It's something that needs to be addressed. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
It was a good point. So actually, I
No,
do have a question for you.
yeah.
Do you think that he's right when he says it's not as easy to measure how good of a father you are? Are you saying yourself, you can't objectively measure how you're doing as a dad? Or do you think people who are still plugged in can't because they just don't know the alternative?
No, I mean, I think there are standards you can have as a father, but the problem with that is what I said earlier. We lie to ourselves, right? We don't consider how we treat our kids a standard as a father. We don't care what our kids think. Usually the standard of the father comes from what other people think of us, right? How our friends see us or how society sees us. And we don't question it, right? We put on an image, we put on a show, and we want people to see that we're a good dad. The sad thing is behind closed doors is what happens. And so to build on that, right? So we rarely don't see a child getting hit in public, right? We had that conversation with Patrick, gave us some good advice. But we don't see it happening. And there was actually a study that they did. They were trying to measure something else in the home, right? Something about screen time or electronics. And what the study picked up, since they had video cameras in these homes, is how many times parents actually hit their kids and spank them. They had no idea because it's not out in the open. So this was a study that revealed that most kids were getting spanked or hit 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 10 times a day for simple things. So I think that's part of the reason why we can't really see if we're a good father or not. Who are we going to ask? We're going to ask our kids who are abusing, where most kids are getting.
I'm good, right?
You're okay, son, right?
Well, what
me
drove
just
me to
smacking the
ask that was me just thinking about, I can sit down and just look at somebody, just look at how their kids are interacting with them, and how does that come? We've shared multiple
Well,
times,
some
like,
kids fake it really well, though.
but
Right?
you
They have the
can't
fear of God
fake
in
that,
them.
you cannot fake. I don't believe you can fake genuine enjoyment of one another's time. I could see a kid who's like, I'm happy to be with my dad, but I could also see just the little things, like the side glances,
Yeah.
am I, can
The
I touch
twitch
this
when the
cup?
dad raises his hand.
Not even like, that's an easy one. I'm trying to go like the more difficult ones of like the kid. If, let's say, you came to my house and everything looks cool, but my kid knocks down a cup and like, I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. It was an accident. You'd be like, whoa, why did that kid just go to level 10?
Curls up in a ball.
Like, there are indicators, man. I'm saying, so that's what
Yeah.
drove it. Is I think we can measure it, but I understand your point. If you're measuring yourself, that's much more difficult because you're like, oh yeah, I'm a good man. It's like when we say you think you're a strong man because you're stronger than your wife and your children, but measure yourself against other men. Now are you as strong? And that's where you can see the true measurement of where do you stand.
I don't know if I'm stronger than my son anymore. That's up for grabs.
Bro, I'm trying to keep myself as far as I can, but he's gaining quick.
No, and I will say one other thing about the abuse that goes on behind closed doors. We see this in Hollywood. So if we could talk about how the world is turning out to be crazy now, a lot of the shows and the movies, we see the craziness, right? We see the political correctness, the critical race theories, all these things that they're pushing on us, and most people watch it and like, what the hell is going on, right? There's always a narrative. It can't just be for entertainment anymore. But if you look back, if you go back a decade or two, right, to the 90s, you'll see movies where, and especially sports movies, right? The one thing that stands out is the Friday Night Lights. I'm sure you saw that.
Yes. I was just thinking of it.
So these are the kids who are perceived as tough football players, right? They have everything. They have it all. And in the movie, they're miserable. They're suicidal, right? They're covering up injuries. I don't even know if that's that movie. But their mental health is really declining and they just want to get the fuck out. And Hollywood used to paint that picture, right? Like being abusive to kids, pushing them for your own benefit. It's not good. We don't see that anymore, right? We
That's
don't see
interesting, dude. We've never spoken about that. That's wicked interesting.
Wicked.
Yeah, it is, like, a lot.
Rhode Island.
Shut up.
No, and we don't see it. And and even there was another one, Varsity Blues. And that was kind of the same premise, right? These football kids who are supposed to be tough, You know, there was that one scene where the dad had the beer can on his hand. He's like, throw him in the fucking pigskin. And he purposely hits his dad in the nose.
Yep.
I think that was telling about the times, right? And you don't see that anymore. Like you don't see that they're trying to show you how dysfunctional it is. It's fucking crazy now, right? It's absolutely nuts what they show on TV, the movies, and like I said, everything has an agenda. And we've moved so far away from protecting kids. Like when you watch Friday Night Lights, you could, if you had a son, right? I have my son. I'm like, I'm never letting my kid play football. That's crazy. Nobody cares about him. I got to protect him. Now you turn on the TV, you put on a movie, everything's, oh, my 5-year-old daughter wants to be a man. We're going to surgically remove her breast and give her hormones. And you're like, what? How is this allowed? How is it even out on TV? And nobody's outraged. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people accept
Here
it.
we are spending an hour on our Wednesday night being outraged and speaking against it. But these are great points. And I actually want to run with that. That was one of the things I wanted to address. We're seeing a lot of sexuality issues, whether that's sexual identity, whether it's a sexual preference, or even understanding what it means to be your sex or gender. Or I don't even know if those are interchangeable. But Tim says, we preach all the time to heal and grow from our past trauma. Is there a level of trauma that is so severe nothing positive can come from it? I would say that is a very difficult question to answer because everybody just uses it. I look at all of my trauma and I'm like, well, I overcame that. So that helped me be the man. I don't quit now. And so, well, that's positive. But dude, who could I be if I wasn't hit? Who could I be if my mom didn't kill herself? Who would I be if this thing didn't happen or that thing didn't? I don't know. And so, but I will say this, for every Zac, there's a million, not Zacs. There's a million dudes who were in my shoes that just for whatever reason went left instead of right. The Navy literally saved my life. Like literally joining the military is what worked for me. That was my one, my Willy Wonka ticket. It worked, man. It really got me to screw my head on straight. But what if I didn't? And I think about that, like that could have been a really bad life, or maybe it could have been amazing. I have no idea. But I will say this, Tim, there's a lot of people who struggle and they never get out of it. They never think they're good enough. They accept abuse. They view pain as love. And so to make a difficult, complex question simple, yes, the trauma many experience as a kid, especially when it comes to the hand of their parents, they distort, what love is. And they think that certain people are allowed to do things to them because they love them. And that's one of the most unfortunate things because you're like, if you could just open your eyes, you could fix the problem right now. You could leave. You could solve this. Instead, they take the abuse and then they allow their children to receive the same abuse from those hands. And that's men and women. I'm not just saying, men hit women. I'm saying, women, emotional abuse, like all forms of abuse. Verbal, they think it's normal. They normalize it. It's normal to treat kids like second-class citizens, and that stems again from trauma. And so, yeah, nothing positive is coming from the way we treat children. A majority of people treat children. I feel like we have to keep putting that asterisk because Tim doesn't. We don't. And so we're starting to roll with a squad that's growing. And so it's going further.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. No, and that's a difficult question, right? So I would take it from the standpoint of we go back to the book, The Origins of War and Child Abuse. And if you read that book and you go through it and you see, you talking about sexuality before, Zac, there were a lot of sexually deviant things that were done to kids as normal back in the days, right? Different cultures, most cultures. And I'm not going to get into it. You can read the literature.
I still haven't ordered that book. I've read the passages you've sent me. I've read a few quotes and stuff, but I've never bought that book. And the more you talk about
find it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably find an audiobook online. I actually know. I think I sent it to you. Stefan Molyneux does the audio version.
No, I'm talking.
But you could probably find it in PDF. I don't know if you can actually buy the book anymore. I don't know if it's in published. Yeah,
I don't want to after all the more you talk about it.
No, but so to say, is there a level of trauma so severe that nothing positive can come from it? There absolutely is, right? There's levels of trauma that disable people their whole lives, right? Whether it's depression, whether it's being sexually abused as a child, there's things that the brain does not come back from. So that's why a lot of what we talk about is preventative, right? It's realizing that you have the capability of really potentially harming your child's brain as it's developing. So we never, if there's an option to take violence off the table, to take whether that's sexual violence, physical violence, emotional violence, you have to remove it, right? It doesn't. I don't care what happens next, right? I don't care if you say, oh, my son won't clean his room. What do I do? Who cares? Don't hit him. I don't care what happens next. I don't care if he never cleans his room. Don't hit him, right? If we can get past that point, then we can start to think about other ways to deal with the problem. But other parents or even fathers will say, oh, well, you have to spank your kid. It teaches him discipline. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if the room gets cleaned. It doesn't matter if it gets cleaned half-ass. It doesn't matter if he never goes back in that room again. You remove the violence. That's how you ensure what the question Tim just asked never happens, right? Where there's never an instance where a child cannot heal from their wounds, cannot heal from the trauma that was inflicted upon them from a degenerate, dysfunctional, and sociopathic parent.
No, that's really good, man. Sometimes I feel like I have to say it for you to understand. Like, I really hope people understand, like, when they're hearing these things, and those who are watching live right now, those who watch after the fact, like, these aren't just words. These are actions. The things we're saying right now are actions being taken now by parents. They're actions you need to take. If your action is the action against that thing, not hitting the kid, like, I don't know how else to say it. That's not the answer. And again, I'm not going to go down that tirade, but I want to. Just don't do it. But let's go back to the sexuality thing, because I didn't say the piece I was trying to say. How do you deal with that? We spoke earlier about how society is like a gang, and they go after the kids who don't have identity. And these kids, instead of being a parent saying, you better not be gay or change yourself, kid, it's like, whoa, pump the brakes here. Your child, if you help invest time and energy into them developing themselves and them knowing who they are on the inside and what it is they stand for and what they're about, because you live it yourself, they're not going to do that. They're going to know where they are. And if your kid has developed all that and you've got their back and they're going around and they're doing their thing, like, yo, I hit puberty, I'm growing, I'm starting to be attracted. Hey, mom, dad, I'm gay. Okay, kid, look, move on. Like, I don't care what your sexual preference is. I don't talk. Hey, guys, I'm straight. Nobody cares. Like, that's not something I identify with. It's just a part of me. And you teach your kid, like, that's not a tool to be used. That if that's your thing, that's your thing. All right, on to the next. What's the next goal you've set for yourself? What are you doing, personally? What are you doing professionally? Like, treat the person, not all the products around the person. And here's the thing. When you avoid them, you don't have the discussions about how you failed and how you overcame. You don't have the discussions about what do you do if, you don't have any friends. You don't talk to your kid. You don't meet them anywhere. They go to school and maybe they're made fun of because they're shy or whatever, because kids make fun of kids. And you never instilled grit or resiliency in any capacity to where they think, well, now there's something wrong with me. I'm a broken toy. I belong on Misfit Island, or you're constantly telling them, like, you have to do this. You have to do this. They're like, I want to do the opposite of that. You hate me. You want me to do all the things that you couldn't do or you couldn't be. You're trying to force me to live a life I don't want to live. You know what? I want you to call me Zer. Call me they. Like, I'm done. I'm not playing your game. And you know what? You can't say anything because you don't love me, and I don't care if you even like my choice, because that group I found online, because my parents weren't present and nobody else was there for me, so I went out and I found love. That group loves me if I call myself they. And so that's who I am. And you will respect that because they also gave me the power that you didn't give me, the power to stand up for myself and believe in something. And so if you don't do that as a parent, if you don't step in and be that role for them to show them, like, you are who you are, you own that, you choose that, you go down that path. And when people try to control you, they try to manipulate you for those reasons, you're aware of it because your parents sat down and talked to you all about it. And they don't do that to you. They teach you how to stand against it. And so if your parents don't do it to you, they tell you that this is wrong, that nobody's to do that to you. When it happens, they're like, I'm standing my ground. Like, leave me alone. You're not going to prey on me. But at the same time, if you're not going to sit there and instill that time in them, you're not going to put that energy into them, you're not going to teach them these things, you're the parent who only shows up when there's a problem. And guess what? As a parent, you're supposed to be proactive, not reactive. So if you're a parent who's like, well, the world's crazy, they're going to make my kids gay and they and all these things and whatever's going on, the pronouns, and you're terrified of that, it's because you're not putting in the reps. I'm not afraid. My son's not afraid to go play baseball because he practices it all the time. I'm not afraid of my kids going into the world because I put the reps in with them all the time. There's no fear here at all. Go play, go do your thing. Like, do I wish the world was like sunshine and rainbows and just easy? Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'm like, this sucks that it's kind of going the way it is. But it's just another thing. I can't control any of that. So I don't spend any time worrying about it or being butthurt about it. It is what it is. This is where we operate. This is the world we live in. It doesn't come into our home. And we go out there and we protect ourselves. We do our thing. We have a great time. Life is good. And so when I sit here and I say, hey, we're playing middle school, my daughter's doing cheer, my wife and I are doing great. And people are like, well, my home is filled with stress and I'm probably getting divorced and I can't pay my bills. And my kid, they're going through some shit. And my other one, they're just being teens. I'm like, we can't relate. We are living in two different realities and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, man, Zach, that is well said. And it needed to be said. It's the world is crazy, right? That's the topic tonight. Think about how many people focus on what they hear going on in the world. And I was laughing before because I was trying to think how many times you said the like whatever the hell the pronoun thing is. I think you said that on multiple streams because it's hard to keep up with, right?
I really don't know.
I think it's a good point though that if we manipulate our kids, right, it doesn't always have to be physical violence. If it's the threat of violence, right, we don't always have to hit them. But if we're threatening them, if it's manipulation, threaten to take things away, we condition our kid to understand that people who care about them, they treat them that way. Then, of course, they're going to go out and they're going to find people who do the same thing to them with nefarious reasons. And they're not going to know what good people are. So these same parents are complaining about the outside, right? What's going on? Oh, you got to protect your kids from the back in the 80s, it was the homosexuals. Now you got to protect them from the transsexuals, the transgenders. There's always going to be a threat when you're not dealing or parenting appropriately in the home. I mean, and this is reality, right? My kids are not afraid of transgender people. They don't care. It's a non-issue. They see them like anybody else, right? They're a human being. And we have those discussions, right? We don't preach hate for anybody based on religion, gender, race. We accept people for how they treat us. That's the language we've learned. So it's important to recognize that in your home. And I bring it up because, again, most parents are super hyper focused on what's going on outside. If we get to the truth, what's really going on, there are, and I just looked up the stats. It's 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys who get sexually assaulted. And that is from 90% of somebody they know. 90% of those crimes are committed by somebody they know. And I think 40 to 50% are from the parents. Put that in context. Who is the biggest threat to our children for sexual predators? It's happening right in our fucking home, right in our backyard. And they'll make you believe that you have to worry about some fucking 12-year-old transgender who's on Good Morning America doing methamphetamine, whatever the fuck they do. I don't know. But this is how hyper sexualized it is, right? This is how they get into your mind and they plant those seeds that you should be afraid of this, right? It's like, if I think back to terrorist attacks and after 9/11, I remember seeing a stat where they said, that the terror threat, the level, orange, red, right? They were scaring people all the time. I think it was like you had a greater chance of being killed by a dog than actually statistically by a terrorist. That's how little it happens. But, and I'm not, whatever happens through terrorism is horrible. It's evil. But if you really start to fucking think about what's the real threat, right? It's like a cop shoots a black man and everybody freaks out. How many black people die every night in shootouts and in mass shootings? It's a crazy world. And they tell you everything to keep you afraid. You can't let that fear in your home. And I'm probably going to catch some slack for all the shit that I just said, but it's cool.
I got your back, brother. I'll go down swinging. So Tim says, call me Zara, call me they, but I'll be damned if I let you call me a bad father. That shit's like that's one of the best things, like possibly the best quote in any Oak and Rock fatherhood coming out of this chat. That is so well. You better tweet that shit or I'm going to. I'm telling you right now. You know, you got a head start until I'm done with this. And then tonight I'm dropping it. You know, Anthony, that's a great way to look at it. You know what I fucking hate? Like, I hate when motherfuckers forget that we are living in a world where you have the option to turn it off. If I turned off electronics and just went out into the world, did my thing, came back, I wouldn't even know something was going on. I might know inflation because shit's fucking expensive at the supermarket. But outside of that, it's pretty chill, man. And that means people are inviting it into their home like a vampire. You can't invite toxic energy into your home. You're voluntarily letting it happen. And so that's one of the biggest things that it's like obesity. Like I freaking hate seeing obese individuals. And it's not because I'm like, oh, fat phobia, like, oh, you're fat. It's because, like, man, like, I know you can't live as a grand of a life as I do. And that's not because you're less of a person. It's because literally I can go for a run and you cannot. I can hike to the top of the mountain and you cannot. I can do things and not have my body hurt. You cannot. I don't feel pain when I'm just sitting and hanging out. You do. And so
You can protect your kids.
Dude, I get like slightly nauseous when I tell the story about Coda falling into the ocean. Yeah. I fucking hate that story, but I tell it because literally, I think that was 2018. My son would be dead today. He fell down a cliff, like far away, and then the waves started sucking his ass up. And I had like that amount of time to get my ass down there. And I flew down this cliff. I navigated it. If I was fat, if I was awkward, I didn't have the balance just from running around and doing the things I do in the playground, I navigated that like freaking Spider-Man, man. And then I had the strength to get our asses both out of the cliff. That sucked ass. That was horrible. But if I was overweight and I tripped, I would have broken an arm or busted my face or had a concussion, you know, or if I got down there, I wasn't strong enough to get him out. We both die. We both get sucked away. There was like, I was sucking wind, man, because I was like drowning pretty much to get him out. If I didn't have the physical capacity to do that, it's not some John Wayne shit. It's literally these day-to-day moments. It's your kid falling down and breaking their leg in the woods and you're not able to carry them out. It's these little things. They're going to suffer so much pain because you can't be there to get through. You can't just get them through that issue, whatever the obstacle is. And people say, well, why do you keep lifting? Because I don't know the object I'm going to have to pick up between myself and my family feeling pain. I don't know what that weight's going to be. So I'm just going to push as far as I can. And hopefully that's enough. That's why I keep going. You know, and that's something, again, we talk about, well, fat acceptance. Look, it's not about your look. It's not about just the aesthetics. And that plays into it. I saw the Sports Illustrated cover. That's a big girl, man. You know, and you know what I see? I see a fit girl surrounded by fat. I see the fat in her organs. I see the names. I see her having to use 3 seatbelts to ride a roller coaster if she can ride it at all. I see her not being able to go on rides because of the weight limit. I see her embarrassed when she's going on a plane because she hits all the chairs. I see the things that nobody wants to address. And so it's not, she could feel much better. And the only thing that's stopping her, maybe keeping her there, is the Tess Holiday shit. You got this model out there who's saying it's great to do this. And she feeds herself and she found a way to market it. So she's making money. And when you make money, you can have an influence. And when you influence, people want to follow. And it's you normalize, not degeneracy, but you normalize comfortable living. You normalize, you know, gluttony. You normalize these things that we know aren't good for us. But when, well, hey, it's not that bad. I can be popular. Nice. Talk to me when she's 45 and dying of a heart attack. 45 years old, dude. I'm 35. I don't want to have only 10 years left. Like, that's not cool. I want to be here a long time. I want to be a grandfather who can run around with my grandkids. I want to be running on my great grandkids if that's possible. I want to throw them on my shoulders and like, yo, my grandpa's jacked. I plan to die leaving behind a beautiful corpse. And that's not to bring anybody else down. It's to bring me up. It's to bring my family up. It's to show them this is how you live the best life. And so we've covered the gamut. We've talked about terrorists. We've talked about fat people. We've talked about transsexuals. What have we missed? What else is going on in the world that we haven't touched on?
No, it's just what you said was good about obesity, right? And I just had to look up another stat. So obesity in children.
Bring it on me though. Bring it.
You know what? I don't want to say the wrong numbers. I have too many numbers in my head, but obesity in children of single parent families is 22% compared to 16% in married parent families. So there's a 6% increase just from not having and that single parent home is usually a father's not there. And I just wanted to point that out, that when families are together, when you have a father in the home, it helps the children, right? It strengthens the whole family. And I think that's the point of this, right? We want to bring peace to the home. We want to bring stability. You know, we can talk about obesity. It's the same thing. Like if you talk about money, and I've brought this up before, right? If you're poor and you see everybody who has money and you hate them, you're never going to become wealthy because you hate the very thing you need to become. It's the same thing with obesity, right? If you see healthy people, you can't hate them just because they take care of themselves. You're going to fail to become healthy because you cannot become the person that you hate. And I think that's a valuable lesson. That's something I try to teach my kids. But I wanted to share one story because it happened tonight before we got jumped on a live stream, and it happened last night. So tonight we're getting ready to leave the house to come to the office and do a live stream, and my wife was upset about the garden.
Oh, I'm
Right,
devastated.
so I said, "Hey, do you need a hug?" And I went over and I hugged her. And my daughter Isabella was making dinner in a moment, and she was like, "Oh," she said, "That's so nice. You don't ever see that." And I was like, "You don't ever see what?" She's like, "Husbands don't hug their wives." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "No, it's just good to see." I was like, "All right, cool." So I was trying to process that and think about it. Like, what do you mean kids don't see that? And if you think about it, right? I didn't talk to her about it yet, but if there's not fathers in the home, they're not seeing that. Right? What did I say? It's
Holy shit,
18%.
dude.
18%, right? Have a mother and father in a home living under the same roof. That means there's 82% of kids do not get to see that. Insane.
This is it, man. This is why I like talking to you, dude. You say shit that makes my heart hurt, but that's what inspires me to write and to speak more on it, man. But damn, I've never thought about it from the angle that people in single homes don't see their mother or their father being loved. They
Yeah.
don't see what it's like to receive love, like unsolicited. Like that was somewhat solicited. She was hard. Like I saw the photo of your vegetables gone. That was a little solicited. She
Yeah.
needed some love, man. That's sympathy because at least you got your zucchini again. You got zucchini. Just make some zucchini bread, zucchini pie, and fried zucchini, and
We'll
baked
be good.
zucchini.
We got eggs. We got eggs for months.
There you go. No, man, that's good. And you know, I'm glad she said that too, because she's recognizing it and seeing it. And like it's unfortunate that's even a discussion.
Yeah.
Like you'll see the video in the Slack or in the Slack group with FOE. I put it up where I took a photo with Jackie and my son, and just grabbed it. We all came in, like piled in, like, hey, big smile time, like family hugs and bombings and just like love. That's a normal thing for us. I couldn't imagine them not being around that. I couldn't imagine them not even understanding that. I can't imagine parents who don't say, I love you. I'm proud of you. I respect you. I dig what you're doing. I like how you're different than me. I like how we're similar. You know, like it's just constantly just sharing the things and recognizing, oh, good job doing this. You know, I don't think I have ever done that. You know, like I tell my kids all the time kind of what I see and just objectively assessing it. And it's not good job doing the things I like you doing. Good job being like me. It's oftentimes the opposite. Ava, I could never do what you're doing right now. That's incredible. You've been working really hard. She does like backflips and twists and shit now. I'm like, dude, I would die. With my son, you know,
Don't
he's
try
sitting
it.
there just today. I'm like, dude, I've never played
Don't-
a game of baseball in my life. I don't know how you take that ball, throw it the way you do, and it hits that little speck. Like that's so freaking impressive to me because I could not do that. And I let them know,
Listen,
like,
if you try to do a backflip with your daughter and you break your neck or crack it, you're going to be in a full body cast doing this live stream with
yeah,
me.
I'm not
Don't
gonna
worry.
miss one, dude. I do not miss anything we do. I will be on Dad's Day tomorrow, and I will be rocking and like, oh, what's up? Might sound a little loopy, but I'll be there. All right, we got two things in the chat I wanted to hit up. One was Jimmy. He says, we're expected to believe the lies we're told. We can be the shield for our family, protecting them from the narrative others want us to believe. You know, and a great way to spin that to what Anthony just said. Yeah, it's normal for us to hug each other. It's normal for a man and woman to show love. And when you guys find your counterpart, that's how you show them love. Let them know that when things are hard, like you're there for them. Not to fix their issue, just to be there for them. And just let them know, like, I'm here. You need it, I'm here. You call, I'll answer. You know, normalize that. And the next one is Tim talking obesity. So Tim, Mr. Friggin' like jacked football player over here, he's talking about the best dessert. And why is it hot apple pie with vanilla ice cream on top? This dude's like the all-American boy. And he's wrong. The best dessert is strictly ice cream. Ice cream by itself, maybe some toppings. I fucking love ice cream, dude. I have to get the Halo kind because they're like 150 to 300 calories. And that way I don't feel so bad when I scan it and put it into my tracker. Phil's like, what's up, bro? I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I just forget them.
Oh, man.
It's good, though.
Yeah. No, and going back to what Jimmy said, and um, there's things that pop up that, and I was going to share something else. So let me go back to that before I get off track here. I know it's getting late, but there are, being that shield for a family, protecting them, right? Those things show up later on. When, you were talking before about fathers who say, oh, if you treat your kids good, they're going to be weak. To raise strong kids, you have to discipline them. You have to be harsh on them. You have to be strict. We know that's nonsense. And I gave an example of the Friday Night Lights. That's why that came up. That's why that popped into my head. But I've had dinners in my home where me and my 3 kids and my wife are sitting down, we're eating, and we're just talking about the world. We're talking about what's going on. And this has happened from probably all of my kids. They'll just randomly pop up and they just look at me and be like, Dad, thanks for raising me the way you did. I don't have to do anything, right? I didn't ask for it. I wasn't trying to pull it out of them. There was no manipulation. But when you live purposefully, when you live to be that stability, like Jimmy was saying, to be the rock, to be the oak in the rock in your home, it comes back to you. You see it in real world. You see it transform. You see your kids become people who are graceful, who are appreciative, who can love openly, who can express themselves. When you abuse kids physically, mentally, psychologically, you get the opposite. I don't care what anybody tells you. To me, there's no debate in this. It's not a debate. There's not one side that says, look how fucking great my kid is. I beat him with a belt and a switch, and I took everything away from him when he didn't listen to me, and I called him names, and look how great he's flourishing. It doesn't happen. Go to the prisons. Talk to those men who've been sitting in cells for rape, for molestation, for murder. None of them will say, yeah, my parents were great. I guarantee you that.
They were so peaceful. I doubt it.
They were the most peaceful people I know. Dude. They were Amish.
I see it. It's not even like a northern, southern. It's not a class. Like, it's just everybody hits kids.
Yeah.
Everybody hits kids. And it seems even in the more affluent, lifestyles or the affluent living families, there's so much verbal. So it seems from my experience, just with friends and with people I've worked with, I don't really hit my kid. I haven't spanked them since they were 4. But I'm like, yeah, but you're dunking on them every time they speak. You are verbally beating the shit out of your kid. They're never good enough. You're never satisfied. They're not living the life you want them to live, so they're bad and they're wrong and they should stop going out and doing their thing. And so still second-class citizen behavior. And so if we're going to talk about, being the best parent we can be and keeping the insanity out of their home, you can't be insane and think that doing these things to these kids is going to make them good or it's somehow beneficial. Like, and that's a great way to kind of like bring it all the way home. You cannot be the source of the insanity. You can't, again, you've said it several times, but I didn't really connect it till just now. You can't be the one causing the crazy. You can't be crazy thinking I'm helping my kid by making them live the life I couldn't live. And so I'm going to live vicariously, or I'm going to sit there and critique and nitpick everything they do. I'm going to make sure I go out of my way to put them in their place, to let them know I'm in charge and I've got the authority. Because if you're a man, if you're truly the goddamn king of your kingdom, then you don't have to tell a motherfucking soul. They know it. You're the guy who shows up. You're the guy who you're on their back walking forward. My son went to a doctor's appointment and Jackie was sitting there in the corner and they're like, oh, you're going to grow up to be big and strong. You're a healthy weight and you're all this and that. Is your dad big and strong? And he's like, yes. And just like that. And she told me that story. She's like, I felt so good for him to he wasn't like, oh yeah, he's good. No, he's like, yeah, he is. Go meet him. My dad's a freaking beast. Dude, that's how I want my kids to see me because that's how I want them to live. Like when I get bigger, I'm going to keep growing, mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yes.
I'm not going to be like, let me beat this kid. You use the word discipline. And I wasn't sure if you were being intentional there because it's not disciplining your kid. You're just fucking abusing them. Yeah. You're mentally abusing them. You're physically abusing them. You're not instilling discipline by smacking the kid around. What would teach discipline is for you to literally break down, here's what went wrong. And here's how you and I together are going to work in this thing. Here's we're going to process your emotions. We're going to figure out how do you deal with this? Dude, I was talking to you recently. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I said, bro, I had to do my breathing exercises. I was like, I had to because that's how I deal with it. When shit gets crazy in my head, I don't yell or stamp or punch. I take a deep ass breath and I slowly let it out. And it probably causes like my brain to like slightly asphyxiate or some shit. And then all of a sudden I go like calm down because I'm a little high. But I just take a deep breath, man. And I had to teach myself that because I had like a temper, you know, and in the military, like you can't go around just fighting people, and you're not a good leader if you react to your emotions. And so I had to find a way. And you know what my son started doing? You know, so today he hit 2 nukes, great bombs, but it went right to the center fielder. And so he's running, they catch it. He's like, and he pointed his arms out and he flexed and everything. And he ran back to the dugout. And he's like, yeah, one of the kids in there, he had told me that when he's really pissed off, he just puts his arms out and he flexes and he blows all the air out of him. And I was like, there you go. And now you have another tool in your system to deal with when you're pissed off. You're not going to cry about it. You're not going to stamp your feet. You're not going to throw your gear. You're going to flex your ass off and you're going to blow all the air out. And guess what? Now you've reset yourself back to neutral. That's a disciplined kid. A kid who just has to go out and take a breath and fix himself. Look at all these kids crying over the place, having fights, having to pick on people, make others feel bad because they hurt inside.
Yep.
What if that kid knew how to just breathe? He could breathe his way out of it. He never becomes a bully. He never becomes the reverse where he's just introverted and picked on and perceived as weak by bullies. So therefore he's getting his life targeted. He never becomes that kid. He never becomes a victim of anything because he doesn't allow himself to. He's not a victim to his emotions. Imagine if parents instilled that. Then they would become the goddamn man. They'd be freaking savages.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, there's the other scenarios to that are the parents who are super controlling. So if your son reenact the environment, right? He hit 2 killer shots to the center fielder. A lot of dads would say, you know, don't be stomping your feet. Don't get mad. Don't get angry, right? Go sit down, take a seat. Or the other dad would be like, well, you know, if 10% of the balls are hit to the people, you know, next time you're going to have it, like they'll try to rationalize and deal with it with logic. Sometimes your kid just needs an outlet, like you said, where he can channel his energy, not suppress it, but be in control. And I think that's the most important lesson right there is your son learned how to adapt to the environment, how to adapt with what was going on in his mind and not let it overcome him because his dad's not breathing down his neck, trying to fix everything. You let your kid solve the problem. You let him figure it out. And he got the advice from a teammate. He didn't even need you. You're almost done, man.
I know, dude. Like, I'm not even sure I'm ready for this. But think about that, man. And so I recently dropped that tweet. I was like, hey, you know all those car rides from the game where you're pointing out all the things you did wrong? I don't do that shit, and I'm the fucking coach. I'm literally on the field. Like, he's literally making my team perform well or bad. And obviously it's a team. But when you make that mistake, I'm like, oh, we trained this 1,000 times. You made a mistake. That's not time to talk about it, man. You know what I said on the ride home? He brought it up. He's like, oh, I hit the ball. It's going right to him. Like, and he's had a bunch like that. I was like, I don't know, man. You must have pissed off the baseball gods or something. And then he kept on going. And I realized like, oh, he's not going to let this go. I was like, and here's the thing, buddy. I was like, you keep going to that plate and swinging. You have had to face making great contact, hitting the ball, and it just finds a defender. I was like, and this is where people quit because they try and they try and they try, but then they give up. I was like, you know what I love about this? You haven't even considered that. What you've been doing is practicing to hit better. I was like, this breaks most people. They can't make it through this slump. They think, oh, I'm just not a good hitter. I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to do it. You know what he said to me? He's like, man, I'm going to come back. He literally said next year, oh man, I'm going to come back a savage. I'm going to be training. And look, we're talking about working out and he's already flipped the switch to I'm not slowing down. I'm trying harder. Yep. And I meant it when I said that. When you say shit that like really hits me in the soul, and I remember you made a lot of points, but one of the points you made, I was like, fuck, dude, I don't like that sucks. You know, I realized I'm like that too. When I hear about these kids hurting, when I hear about, you know, the parents not being in the home, I hear about more kids getting hit, about it being normalized. We need more hitting in schools. I'm going to make more fucking content. I'm not going to back down from this because I see a huge population I got to go against. I'm leaning into this further. And here I am looking at this 12-year-old doing the same shit. And I'm like, whoa, it took me a while to get to that point. You're there. That's when you share these lessons with them, they pick it up quicker. They don't have to climb out of the holes you fell into. And so we're setting our kids up to be better than ourselves. That's the goal of the parent.
Yep.
My grandkids, oh my God. I mean, fucking G's.
But that's the language that you speak in your home. right? And you see it in your kid. You see it get fucking sent to him. He shows it back to you. He mirrors it back to you. Where that's something that I think fathers need to understand, right? Your attitude, your mindset, it gets the way you speak about yourself, the way you speak about your life. Your kids see it, they live it, they feel it, they experience it, and they replicate it. If you see your kid where he has no ambition, he or she, they have no ambition, right? They have no self-esteem, they have no confidence. They have issues that they can't get past, they can't deal with. You need to look at yourself. You need to look at how you're leading them, right? And I know it's getting late, so I'll end it. But the 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 idea of authority, right? Every man wants to be the authority in their home, and I think this is from the podcast that we had out today with Patrick. Consensual authority, being strong enough that the people under you consent to your authority, to your power. They want you to take the lead. They want you to lead them with your virtue. And I think that is where we need to get, right? We talk about saving kids. We have to save dads too, man. We can't save the kids without the dads fixing themselves.
That's well said, man. And that's why we're doing what we do. So if you're a dad looking to step the game up, you're looking to improve where it is you're at, make sure you've liked, make sure you've subscribed. I got the banner going there, the whole damn video. You know what to do. So if you're looking to grow, you can get the personalized message. Reach out. Ask the questions like where are you stuck? What are you dealing with? Where do you want to improve and how do you want to step the game up? Reach out and ask. And you're going to personalize message back. Hey, here's what I would do in that situation. There's no blanket book. People are like, well, what book should I read to be a better dad? No, it's what actions should you take to be a better dad? There are books that can give you tools. But look, if I give you a bunch of books about finances and I give you a bunch of books about a bunch of videos to watch about finances, but you never change the way you spend your money, what was the point of learning? You're a well-read and well-watched individual, but you're not any financially healthier. The same goes for your family. If you understand, I can't just read about fitness, I've got to go work out, then you need to understand that I can't just read about fatherhood and watch Oak and Rock Fatherhood, but not put in the reps with my kid. So take what it is you've heard, go out and apply it, and you will absolutely crush it. And you'll see that your family is turning things around. You'll see that they're avoiding the darkness of the world and the craziness of the world. And importantly, as Anthony just said, you'll see it mirrored back to you. Because when you lean into the family, you put the effort into the family, you'll start to see they're putting the effort into you. They're all of a sudden they're trying. And that's a whole nother episode on making sure you recognize when your family puts the reps in. But look, we're not going anywhere. So stay tuned. Reach out if you'd like us to address something. If you got a topic you're looking for us to bring up, reach out and drop that too. We're looking to have this discussion. We need to normalize this discussion. It should be normal for fathers to come together, to sit down, to break down, the taboo of fatherhood and be like, yo, what's working for you and your son? What's working for you and your teenage son? What's working for you and your adult son? How did you get over this situation? Their heart was broken. What do I do? How do I properly respond to that? Hey, how are you interacting with your daughter? You were never a little girl. You're two bearded dudes, but you both have daughters. How do you connect with them at that level? How do you see through a young girl's eyes? These are all great questions, and we should probably do a video on them. And I'm just going to ask my own questions here, but you get the point. We're rolling. It's time to do some work. It's time to put reps into your family. It's time to make them the priority you say that they are. And so with all of that said,
yeah, man,
Anthony,
good talk.
Appreciate your time, brother. As always, another one down. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Big shout out to Tim and Jimmy for being our main chat guys. I just saw Thor jumping in there. So big shout out to Thor down there. I appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. Appreciate you guys being involved with what we're doing. We're truly going to be changing the world one family at a time, but it starts with those who tune in to make the change. So take what it is you learned and apply it. Until next time, you guys stay well.